Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Jolene's Happy Time Craftcast. I really appreciate you being here with me today. You'll probably notice that I am once again in a new location. It's just too cold over in my office today, so I'm back in the living room. You'll have to forgive me if there's a few echoes or if you can hear the dishwasher running or Augie's paws on the hardwood floor. But I'm comfortable, so I'm going to stay right here where it's nice and toasty. But thank you so much for joining us today. As always, I'm excited about my guest. I'm always over the top to have conversations with these amazing artists, and today is absolutely no exception. Today's guest is really special in that she has been a guest artist with our company, Big Raven Yoga, since almost the beginning. Fronkie L'Heureux was our number 3 or 4 guest artist, and we now have over 40. Her designs are available at Big Raven Yoga, and they're absolutely beautiful because Frankie has been a tattoo artist for over 18 years, and she is exceptional in her eye for design and her attention to detail and just her exquisite nature as an artist. I know you are going to love her as much as I do. So please welcome to the Happy Time Craftcast, Fronkie L'Heureux. Here she is. Hi, Fronkie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here. I am absolutely so excited to talk to you. Like we've talked over the phone, but like to talk face to face. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to be here.
Thanks for having me, Joleen.
Oh, you are so welcome. So tell us just a little bit about like you as an artist.
My mom would say that I've been an artist since I could hold a crayon.
Yep.
And just as a kid, that's all I wanted to do. I was just constantly sketching. Like if I saw a stack of blank paper, it was like, ooh, like I would just get so excited. Just thinking about all the things that I could draw on it. And so I was, like a lot of creative children, my parents will always say like, oh, well, you either get one or the other. You either get, oh, you're going to be famous. Can I have your autograph so that, now while it's cheap before you get really, really famous, or you get, oh, well, you'll never make money as an artist. So you got to figure out what you're going to do for your backup
Right,
plan.
your backup plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always imagined that if I tried to become an artist as like a career, that would mean like spending a lot of time alone, just creating.
Yeah.
And that kind of scared me because I'm a Gemini. I'm a pretty social person. So when I first started thinking about tattooing when I was like 17, 18, it just sort of seemed like the perfect combination of like, not only can I make money as an artist, like, fuck you, mom and dad, excuse me.
Beep.
Beep. But also like, I don't have to be alone to create art. Like it's a very social medium because
Right.
my canvas is a person who
Right.
talks to me and tells me their stories and
Well,
has
and
feelings.
you've been doing it now 18 years. So I would imagine that you got started at a time when not many women were in the field.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I started tattooing in Tallahassee, Florida in 2006. And until I moved away in 2012, I was the only professional woman tattooer in town that entire time. It was hard for me to find an apprenticeship. A lot of shops were just like, we will not apprentice a woman. And actually, now that I'm older and I've heard more women's stories about how they got into the industry, that is actually not the worst that they could have done.
Right.
There were a lot of abuses, probably still are a lot of abuses, a lot of power dynamics that, the men in the industry will take advantage of a young woman who wants to become part of the industry. I lucked out and did not have any of that. My mentor was very fair and kind and just kind of let me do
Right.
my thing.
Let
Yeah.
you sounds like let you shine and
Hmm.
find your space. I didn't get a chance to tell you this, but my former sister-in-law, and I don't like calling her my former sister-in-law, but she's no longer partnered with my brother. But she is a pretty well-known and famous artist here in Minnesota.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and her name is Megan Hoogland. And I absolutely love everything she does. She does portrait work. And
Oh, wow.
she is like my brother has portraits of my parents on his arms and they look just like the portrait. So I love what she does, but I think in your industry, it's come such a long way, hasn't it? In what it represents to people personally and its social acceptance. And I mean, I don't think that tattooed people carry any different identifier than any other person, if that makes sense. And do you agree with me?
Um, I'm not sure because it would depend exactly what it is that you mean by that. I do
Like, I
think
don't think there's a
that
stigma with having tattoos.
I think it depends on the social circles that
Okay.
you're in. There is definitely still a stigma, but it's not as prevalent. It's not as
Mhm.
widely held. Kind of the same way, like, racism and misogyny are not quite as mainstream anymore. So kind of similar. Like most people are trying not to judge people by how they look
Right,
nowadays, whereas
right.
that hasn't always been the case. But if that you still see online people all the time like, oh, women shouldn't have
Oh,
tattoos,
really?
and oh yeah,
Oh,
and
that's so dumb. I
it
hate
is
that.
dumb. It is so dumb. I
I
mean,
hate
when
that
I
too.
look at somebody who's tattooed, especially very heavily tattooed,
Mhm.
with large scale pieces, I'm like, that's a person who shows up for their appointments, who can sit still for a long period of time, um,
Right,
and actually, like, another human being doesn't mind being close to them for
right.
all day to do those long sessions. It's
That's
not
like a
easy getting tattooed, so.
it's like an amazing way to look at it for sure. I happen to know that one of your designs is kind of right by your feet. Would you mind showing it to folks? Because if you're listening, I will describe it, but just to get an idea of what Frankie's artwork is like, this is one of her yoga mat designs at Big
Yeah.
Raven Yoga, and it's called Beloved. And here goes. Isn't that amazing? Like that is Frankie's artwork on a yoga mat. It's so great. I love it so much.
Yeah,
You
I keep it at my shop with me. I wonder if it'll show. No. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I keep this one in my shop because it goes with the color palette that I'm going to use to decorate in here. As you can see, it's pretty bare in here right now. I just moved in not that long ago. But yeah, it's so vibrant and it's a color palette that I'm pretty partial to. Um,
It's beautiful.
Whereas,
I'll
thank
be
you.
sure to link it in our show notes. And she actually has three. She has Persephone, Beloved, and then the third one we couldn't remember the name of, but um, I think it's called Brilliance or something. But they're all in our collection by her name. But she's a pinup girl with tattoos, and she's amazing. I love that. Well, I think it's so awesome. So, do you get a chance to connect with your art practice like every day, other than like I know that you are busy working on people, but do you have projects that are also personal?
Oh yeah, sure. Maybe not all the time. Like right now, I'm kind of between projects. Well, no, that's not true. I do. I do have one that I'm working on right now. I bought a bunch of the craft boards from Lowe's that are like mini insulation boards.
Okay, kind of like a
Um,
masonite?
I don't know. It's like foam, sort
Okay, okay.
of, and they're like about an inch and a half thick. And I don't know if you can hear the echoing in here, but
A little, not a lot.
it's when you're in here, it's like, it's an empty room. So there's a lot of echoing. So I bought these craft boards and
Okay.
I took my kids and my kids' friends and my friends who are their parents out to the park one day. It was the weather was beautiful, and I brought all these really nice paints and brushes and stuff, and I had everybody paint one of the boards. And I started mine, but it's not done.
So will that be like a sound barrier in your studio then?
Yeah, so it's going to serve the function of both decorating the walls and also absorbing some of the sound.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know that you also crochet and you've been dabbling in watercolor. So do you have a favorite thing you like to crochet?
Well, crochet is one of those things that, like you said, I was dabbling,
Yeah.
and it's something I learned before I even started tattooing,
Hmm.
and then I think I did it for a little while I was pregnant. I don't think I've ever finished anything. The last thing that I crocheted was, I've had this dress for years, and it's one of my favorites, and it's like a cute little peasant baby doll dress.
Yeah.
Um, and the straps broke, and I crocheted some straps with
Nice. A little
like,
fix-it project.
yeah, so I have like I did the cute little scallops to
Yep.
go in the front. So there's just like a little bit more to it. And then I just did a chain after the scallops, like once it crosses over my shoulder, it's just a long chain and then crosses and crosses over again in the back. So it ties up. It's really cute. That's the last thing I crocheted. Watercolor is much
But
more
you
fun.
DIY'd a solution, and I think
Yeah.
like artists and crafters, I think that's something that like comes so naturally to us is like, of course I can figure out my way through this, or I can muscle this together. Like that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and the end result tends to be better than something you would just run out and buy anyway.
Right, agreed.
I did go out and look for ribbons or something, and nothing really suited me. And I also have like a lot of like sensory issues, so I get like if my clothes are not
Right.
super comfortable, I let's just say I'm going to be done with the day a lot earlier, you know?
Right.
um,
Right.
yeah, so
I'm kind of a tag person myself. Like
mhm.
I don't like to feel a tag or sometimes I have this sweater that I love. And they use like metallic thread to attach the tag. And I know it's there and it makes me nuts. And I even took it out, but I still have like memory of that
The
stupid metallic tag. And so
ghost tag.
I had to donate the sweater. Like I couldn't rise above, you know. It was just
Yeah,
like
I have to
I am
cut like.
forever like scarred by that stupid
Thankfully,
metallic
this
thread.
collar is like really wide, but like I have to cut the necks off my collar. Like I have to cut the collars
Yeah.
off all my shirts. Like I just can't stand.
I have
I
no
just,
judgment there. Like other than that
yeah,
makes perfectly good sense, right?
yeah.
Like that makes so much sense. So as a tattoo artist, um, like and you're doing art pieces all day long. So do you ever get tired of producing or creating?
I wouldn't say so much tired.
Mhm.
Like I said, like it's been a drive since I was a
Mhm.
baby.
Right.
It just feels like, um, if we're all like, say this is the Matrix and we're all like characters,
What do you mean say? Say. I mean, what do you mean say it's the Matrix?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like when I picked this character, it was like the defining characteristic was like must be creating at all
Right.
times. And the only time that I like stopped, I actually did. I spent 2 years without doing a single doodle once in my whole life, and that was when I was raising little babies.
Oh,
So
sure.
I was still very
You were
much
doodling in other
creating.
ways, right?
Yes, yeah,
Mhm,
exactly.
mhm.
Um, but I will say that I certainly do need a fair amount of downtime of
Right.
like, I am just going to sit here and I'm not going to be productive in any way. And
Mhm.
when I do that, I'm still kind of being creative and kind of visualizing because I read a lot,
Right.
especially like fantasy.
Mhm.
Like right now, I'm reading the Percy,
Jackson?
no, Mercy Thompson
Oh,
series. Yeah, totally different. I mean,
yeah.
still fantasy, but it's so she's a coyote shifter, and
Okay.
she's was raised by werewolves, and there's fae and vampires and
all the good stuff,
all
right?
the good stuff. Yeah. And
Well,
it's all killer, no filler. Like just action packed.
right.
Uh,
So I would imagine though, like in your artistry, so not only are you arting, right, and being productive, but you're also with people. And that's a lot of peopling, I would imagine. And so the downtime makes complete sense to me. I just kind of had my own realization. I had three pieces that were commissioned for others that I needed to get done. And Frankie, I procrastinated and procrastinated and procrastinated. And it's not like they were not difficult for me to do. They weren't like it's something well within my skill set, but I just kept procrastinating because I wanted to do my own like creative exploration and not necessarily, make something that I had made before. But I just got them done and I
Yay.
know, thank you, thank you. But it's some of my best work. And I
Hey,
thought that I
cool.
would have like this feeling of like hating to see them go. But the opposite has happened. Like I'm so proud of them. And I wouldn't want anything like less than this work to hang in someone's home. And so like all the things I thought were going to happen, I thought that I would regret. I actually don't. Like I am so looking forward to tomorrow's delivery and probably their installation. And I'm really excited about it. But boy, did I learn that commissions take a different thought process for me as an artist. And I was just creating barriers, right? But once I got it done, I just feel a huge sense of relief and pride. I can only imagine what that's like for you when your artwork walks out the door every day, right? Like you do
Wow.
have to keep it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so interesting. A lot of the things that you brought up are like pinging something for me. So the
Mhm,
first thing was like how much you procrastinated and how
mhm.
different you feel compared to what you thought you were going to feel,
Yes.
which I think is something that artists experience a lot. And that's
Mhm.
that growth is uncomfortable. And that's that resistance that you were putting up against doing something maybe a little different.
Mhm.
And then, of course, at the end of it, you felt differently than you thought you were going to
Oh,
because you were different. You were a
oh
different
yeah,
person before you started this. Everything that we do that makes us uncomfortable and challenges us changes us. And that's why we resist so hard because this
right,
older version of ourselves has to go away, has to die
right,
essentially for us to become this new version. And that's
right.
where all that resistance comes from. But as far as like watching my art walk away, um, I love that part
I
of
bet.
it
I bet.
because by the time I'm done with it, I see a million things I should have or could have done
Mm,
differently. Um, and I want to do it all over again. But sometimes if they do come back because they want more
mhm.
tattoos, and then I get to see it again and
Right.
appreciate it for that part of our lives where our lives intersected, where they were at that time, where I was at that time.
Mhm.
And that's like the best part of my job is when people keep coming back and we stay in touch with each other's stories and our growth.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you can see back there, but I have all these plants and they're all
Yeah.
named after clients. Because like you said, tattooing is a lot of peopling. So being in a
Yes.
private studio is really great for me. While I am social,
Mhm.
I'm an ambivert, but I think I lean more toward like genuinely being an introvert. Obviously from like
Mhm.
drawing is my modus operandi, like, that's not a very social thing, right?
Right.
But I still love people. So being in a private studio is awesome, but I'd love to have reminders of my people in here because, they
Right.
sustain me and I like every time I water one of my plants that's named after one of my clients, I think about them and like try and send them like just some good vibes, and some love and
That's
some nurturing.
awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say, Frankie, do you have like a favorite part of your process? Because I know for me, I have learned that my favorite part of my process is coming up with the new idea. You know, like every time I make a piece, I say, oh my gosh, I can't wait to make another one. And then I almost never do because I'm more excited about what I'm going to make next, like what materials I'm going to use or what kind of innovation with my tools. And so my favorite part is the climb, like figuring out the next thing. So do you have a favorite part of your process?
Um, I'd say it's hard for me to pick a favorite because I really do enjoy all of it. Um, but one thing that is unique about my process is that I slow the approach to the
Mhm.
tattoo way down. It's not like back in the 90s you'd walk in
Oh yeah, the book.
yeah, or pointing at something on the wall. You're like,
Yeah,
I want that. The sunset over the water with the two
yeah,
palm trees. I want that right on my lower back. I
right,
actually really did want a tattoo like that at one point, but uh, but what I do is I'm starting to call it slow tattooing. So
okay.
you come in first, we talk a little bit about what you want like
Mhm.
online, and then I book you a consultation, and then you come in and we talk for up to an hour about like what this tattoo means to you
Mhm.
and where you want it to go and how you want it to feel. And then like I'll actually take um, a piece of glad wrap and put it on your body because the body curves, but I draw
Sure.
on a flat surface. I design on a flat surface. So when I
Right.
take the glad wrap and I put it on your body and I draw like kind of a sketch of like how I want it to flow with your anatomy. Like I want your tattoo to make you look better naked. I don't want it to look like a sticker that I put on
Right.
you. I want it to look like clothes that you never take off. So yeah, then when I take the glad wrap off, I flatten it out and then I have like a realistic map of where everything
Right.
should go, taking into account your unique shape.
Right. It's
So
like dimensional, right?
yes, exactly. So then we book a design review. And so we have another hour to sit down after I've had a chance to do your design
Mhm.
and go over it and look at it. And I'll have like a picture of you with your tattoo kind of superimposed over it so you can have an idea of what you're going to look like with this tattoo on your body. And we can nitpick, we can get into the details, and we can, we basically just keep refining it if
Mhm.
necessary until it's absolutely perfect. And only then do we book the tattoo.
And
So
is
there's
that
no
the part that
surprises.
you is that the part that you love? Like this
Yeah.
journey with your client, like this
Yes, I would say like the
discovery?
design review is my favorite
Mm.
because A, it's totally different. I've never had anybody do that with me for a tattoo. I just go in
Sure.
and I'm like, that's great. Yeah, you're an awesome artist. Like, I just want your work. You're good. But like for me, I really want for people to feel like to have a chance, A, like they don't have the pressure of being like, it's tattoo day and
Mhm.
maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted it to be, but because I'm scheduled to be in the chair right now, I don't want to make any changes. It's good enough. It's fine. I don't want anybody to ever feel that way. So
Right.
the moment that somebody sees their tattoo design and they really start to imagine this transformation that they're about to go through, um, and I get to like watch their face as they're like
Right.
imagining this new version of themselves. Yeah, that's definitely one of my
I can
highlights.
tell that I can tell that lights you up as
Yeah.
like a really unique part of
What was that?
hello.
Was
I
that
don't
a
know.
ghost?
I think my husband is mopping. I don't know. I think he just hit the door. That was really intrusive. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. He
That's
should have just
hilarious.
said it was a ghost, though. That would have been
Right, that would have been a better answer.
fine.
That would have been an answer. So I do know too that you do have a special offer right now for our listeners that are local to you through December 24th, was it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you remind me what that is and we'll share it with everyone else?
Yeah, so for new clients, it's 20% off of the whole tattoo, as long as you get your design review in by December 24th.
Okay.
It because my process takes time, I can't just say like, "Oh, come get tattooed before December
Right.
24th," because that's not easy. it's,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
not easy to get in that fast. Um, but as long as you have your design review booked by December 24th, I will discount your entire tattoo 20%.
That's
Um,
that sounds extremely generous and very, very kind. I hope some folks in your local area are listening and can take you up on that because that's really very nice. We do have, folks here, live with us, and I'm curious too about like how many of you have tattoos. I do, and I've had mine for probably 20 years. I think I've had mine for
wow.
and I I it's interesting, right? Like when I picked it, Frankie, I picked it out of the book.
Mhm.
I picked it out of the book that you're describing, like when you go through the pages and pages. And I did it with a friend. And what was so funny, we were at like a play date with a bunch of moms. And gosh, maybe it was longer than 20 years because I think our kids were maybe 3 or 4 anyway. And my son is now 27. Or is he 26? He's 26. And she was talking about getting a tattoo. And there were some other moms in this group who were like, I would never do that. I would never, deface my body or whatever their words were. They were just like really strong and judgy. And they said this like right in front of her. And so then she turned to me and she was like, well, would you ever get a tattoo? And honestly, in my whole living life, I had never thought about it, like not even once. But because this was happening in a public place and because she was a good friend and I could just feel the embarrassment and the judgment, I was like, hell yeah, I'd get a tattoo. Yeah, for sure I would. And then like, I don't know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, oh wait, this story is better. I'm forgetting a really important part. Yep, yep. So this friend of mine, I was going through secondary infertility and I had had a couple of miscarriages and I was absolutely freaking devastated
Yeah.
by how my like fertility journey was going. And so she says, if you need me to surrogate for you, I will. You're bun my oven, but I would do that for you because I love you, right? She says all of this. And I'm just like, oh my God, like you are the most clearly the most selfless, loving person in the whole world. And, we never got further in that discussion because I got pregnant. But in between there somewhere, she says, we should get tattoos and matching tattoos. And I could not say no because she just offered to carry my baby.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
How can I be like, no, you go ahead and for 9 months, do this for me. But I could never be like, so I said yes to the tattoo idea. And I was still thinking back to when, people were embarrassing and judgmental towards her. And so then we went. And as I went into the studio, I was thinking like the size of a quarter, just a little something that like represented our friendship. And I let her pick it.
Please tell me she got a bun and you got an oven, or vice versa.
wish. I wish so much we would have thought of that. But she picked it
Dang.
out, and I'm telling you, it's the size of a softball. It is absolutely huge. And it is, as you described, on my lower back. And I mean, I've never seen it with my eyes other than like in a mirror or, something. And actually, I have forgotten that I have it. It's such a great memory and like such a great, like, part of my story of this wonderful, beautiful, selfless friend and what she said. And during the whole process too, I remember it was pretty out of body for me because it hurt so
Yeah.
much that I was just like, I'm going to turn this off and set that over here.
Yeah, you really do have to kind of do that.
I did. I did. But, every now and again, I think about like, it's I don't want to like cover it up because I love the memory and the story behind it. But the color is getting a little, 20 or so years gone now. And
Yeah.
I think about it. But Some people are surprised when I say I have a tattoo, but others are just like, of course you do. So do I, right? And here
Yeah, who
are
doesn't?
right, who doesn't, right? Who doesn't? And even I was going to tell you too, my brother, the canvas for my sister-in-law, he he wanted to incorporate some of my dad's ashes into his tattoo. And my mom wouldn't let him because she didn't want my dad's ashes like wiped away. But I didn't
Yeah.
even know that was a thing. Is that still a thing?
That is a thing that some people do. I think that your mom was probably on the right in
Yeah,
the right there. Because yeah, like half of the ink just gets wiped off of your
yeah,
skin, at least more than half.
yeah.
Um, and also there's like concern for contamination,
I would
possible
imagine.
rejection. Your body might
Mhm.
reject the ink. I personally have never done it, but it's a
Right.
really beautiful thought. It's
It
it's
is
a
a good
lovely
thought.
thought.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah, but I mean, I stayed out of that conversation, as I'm sure you can imagine,
yeah,
because, right, my dad's ashes don't like belong to me.
sure.
And I understand what my brother was desiring and wanted, and also respected what my mom was saying. So I just watched that from a safe distance.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you had mentioned before, how those ladies were being really judgmental
Yes.
and they were like, I would never deface my body like that. That tends to come from like a religious standpoint. And what I think is funny about that, and I guess it kind of depends on your religious upbringing too, because there are
Sure.
a lot of churches that are really like plain and bare bones.
Mhm,
But historically, more often than not, a
mhm.
church is pretty well adorned between the statues and the stained glass and the
Right, right.
paintings.
Mhm.
And yeah, and you know, in the Catholic Church, there's always the sculptures of the Stations of the Cross that go all around them. So to me, actually, the first tattoo shop that I opened was called Sistine Skin because it was a direct like,
That's a
oh,
great name.
if your body is a temple, like look at temples. Like temples
Right,
are very heavily decorated.
right,
So why not? You
right.
know? Yeah.
Well, and I think too in this story, like I wasn't very rebellious as a kid. I'm the oldest, and so I
Oh yeah,
am
you're not
like
gonna be
high,
rebellious.
right, like high achiever,
Hmm.
uh, very driven and productive. And so I didn't really do much to like put my parents in any kind of clutching their pearls,
Yeah.
situation. And I think I always too tried to like even if I felt rebellious, I probably swallowed pretty hard. So
Hmm.
this was when I was, 30. And I
Yeah.
was like, damn right,. I'll get a tattoo.
Yeah.
I finally felt confident enough in myself to say, stop judging my friend and stop being like, and it's not that I was upset about their opinions. I was upset about their projections and values onto her. Like I thought that
Hmm.
was just absolutely gross.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, you say no, I say yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I am the youngest, but I am the only girl. And so there's some different dynamics with
Yeah.
that where yes, I am the youngest, but I was up until I was 18, I was
Mhm.
very, very much like you said, like not rebellious at all, like
Mhm.
just wanted to like please my parents. I
Yep.
wasn't allowed to wear makeup. Or, like my parents were really like strict about I wasn't allowed to cut my hair. I wasn't allowed,
Mhm.
wasn't allowed to wear certain clothes, wasn't allowed to go to parties, wasn't allowed to do anything. Yeah, it was like when I turned 18, suddenly I was just tired of being so obedient and tattoos were like it was like not only am I gonna cut off all my hair, I'm gonna get piercings, I'm gonna
Right.
mark my body permanently, like um but now it's like, and for a long time I like associated having long hair with submission and control and being
Mm.
controlled. And so I couldn't have long hair for a long time. But now I'm growing my hair out for me because I
Awesome.
think it's pretty. And so it's, I'm 39 now, and like it's less about rebellion for me and
Mhm.
more about this is just once you get tattooed, especially if it's in a place where you can see it all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
you start to see yourself as a tattooed person, and it's a different identity. And so now it's like the more tattoos I get, the
Mhm.
more I notice the spots on my body that aren't tattooed, and I'm like, what am I gonna do
Oh, I have
there?
some canvas available.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that
My
stack of blank papers when I was a kid, you know?
Right, right. Well, my other sister-in-law, and so my other sister-in-law, and then I have 4 nieces and nephews, 2 girls and 2 boys on the other side of the family. And they recently designed a tattoo that all 5 of them got. And
Oh,
it was like a mason jar, like a ginger jar that my mother-in-law used to collect. And that jar represents my sister-in-law. And then coming out of this, fruit jar, mason jar, whatever you want to call it, were 4 flowers representing her 4 kids. And then all 5 of them got this tattoo. And
oh,
I know, right? Isn't that just like the
that's so
sweetest?
sweet.
So now, like over the holidays, I'll be talking to my crew. Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, guys, what represents me? And then what represents all of you? And then where are we going to do it? And then with my sister-in-law, Megan, everyone decided like their own placement. Like they didn't
Mm-hmm.
put them in the same place, but they have the same one. And I saw them over the weekend here, and I had a little bit of envy because I love the whole idea. I love what it represents. I love
Yeah.
together. And I mean, I love my family, of course, but like just that representation of my children just seems like profound, and I
Mhm.
love that idea.
Yeah, I love that idea too. That's really beautiful.
You
I
know,
wish I could be a fly on the wall while you guys like discuss
I
what
know, right?
represents you and what represents them, because I love that. That's one of my
I
favorite
will report back on
parts. Yeah.
what everyone wants. Because on the one hand, I love the idea of like something that came together that represents all of them. But like with my crew, I mean, it's like I could imagine one person would be like, I want a snake, I want a bear, I want a panda, you know?
Yeah. I have done like family tattoos like that where everybody gets something different,
Like
but
an
there's some sort
element.
of unifying
Sure.
theme.
Hmm.
And that's great. It's, a little more work for the artist, but
Sure.
it's worth it for people to get what they want, because of course, it's your body,
Mhm.
your decision, what you put on it. So, yeah.
Well, I will report back. We'll see what they say.
Yeah.
Well, I was
Let me
also
know.
thinking too that if my children could, like, they can't write in cursive, bless their hearts. They don't like I
Isn't
was
your son 27,
26,
26?
26, but he doesn't, I mean, they don't really.
Okay.
I was thinking if like I could have like their signatures.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe that would be cool too because you just have to see it to believe it.
Okay.
Like their actual signatures. I'm sorry, kids, for like sharing that tea, but they don't really ever have reason to sign their name. It's not like they use checkbooks or anything like that, so they don't write letters, so they just kind of have like little printing, you know
Yeah,
that too
interesting.
might be cool. I don't know. I will
Yeah.
report back though on what they say. They're probably going to be mad at me for that comment, but I love you. I hope you're all
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I have a ton of tattoos, but I don't have any tattoos that represent my kids. And
Mm,
I struggle with that because obviously my kids are the most important thing in
yeah,
my life. And I think that because of that, it's that resistance. It's
right,
like I'm gonna pick something, and then they're so young though, also. They're
right.
so young, they're still figuring out who they are. And that makes me nervous to like pick an image that represents them because they're
Because it
going
might
to
not, right,
change,
might not all look right.
so whatever I would pick now will only represent who they have been up until this
Mhm.
point. Um, and that there's some validity to that as well,
Mhm.
like we call our oldest Pumpkin, and I could get a pumpkin tattoo, and I actually do have a pumpkin tattoo, actually, but it's not it's not for her. And then I could get a pickle for our youngest, because we call her
Oh.
Pickle. And
Mhm.
that would just represent their early childhood to me. But then they'll grow and they'll be something else. And, like
Right.
maybe I can get more than one tattoo for my kids. I don't know.
Well, as you were talking, I just had this idea. So,
Yeah.
what if I had my kids write, I love you, Mom? And then I had it in all of their penmanship handwriting. And then I
Mm-hmm.
could have like the lines of, I love you, Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I can just imagine how happy that would make you feel
Like
every
all the
time you
time,
see
right?
it.
I'm getting a little overwhelmed just thinking about like how
Oh,
much I would love that and like how special that would be. But it doesn't like, I don't know how it involves me and how they all match, but maybe that's a different idea. But
oh,
it's something that I've been thinking about a lot since I was so inspired by my sister-in-law because I love this whole concept.
oh, that's
Yeah.
sweet.
So, well, can you believe we are almost out of time? But I have to get to what has become our listeners' kind of favorite portion. And that's when I ask all of our guests the same 10 questions. It just gives us a chance to get to know you even better. And you can elaborate, you can just do one word answers. They're not very serious, but the first one is, what is your favorite word?
Wow. What is my favorite word? Um, there's a lot of words coming to mind. Um, but yeah, probably kerfuffle.
Oh, that's excellent. I
It's a
say
really
that.
silly word.
I love that word. I also end up making up words that aren't words to mean carfuffle. So I
Mm.
totally understand what you're saying by that. So do you have a least favorite word on the other side of that spectrum?
Panties.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
really creepy word.
I agree with you. I've never
It's
thought about
also not pretty. It's not doesn't feel good in the mouth to say.
so true.
It's not a
That's
pretty
so
word.
true. Yeah, I have seen people get kind of cringy, creepy about that particular word.
Yeah.
Um, I could see that. I think right now, mine isn't so much a word as it is an expression.
Okay.
And I practice yoga. I've been a teacher for, oh my gosh, 15 years. But I hate the expression, it is what it is. And
Mm.
I don't know why. It just like sets my teeth on edge and I can't stand it, but I can't figure out why because in so many parts of our life it's true. Like you can't change it. It is what it is, but I just nah.
Yeah. I think the intention behind it is what it is some radical acceptance.
Right,
Um,
right.
but it is also redundant, and um, yeah, like
You get
obviously it is what it is.
right. Like it's
Obviously.
so it's so it's like a throwaway, right? Like a throwaway phrase that just doesn't always match for me and it just sets my teeth on edge, kind of like panties for you. I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Ugh." That's not the words I
Don't
like.
like it. I don't
So
like
right,
it.
right. And I'll figure out why. Do you have a favorite kind of sandwich?
Ooh, okay. So I'm vegetarian,
Hmm.
but I do eat meat once a month because blood out, blood in.
Yeah, yeah.
I love a good French dip. That's
Oh,
my
that's an excellent
favorite
choice.
sandwich. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Darren loves those. He orders those a lot and he makes them too, like with his own special au jus and the whole.
Ooh, au jus.
Yeah, okay. I could see that being a favorite.
Oh, it's so good.
Mine travels. I've given lots of different responses to this question, but like right now, I'm kind of in there was so my favorite coffee shop used to serve like a play on on turkey dinner, and it was turkey, Swiss, cranberries, Granny Smith
Oh,
apples, and then like a sourdough toast.
oh, that sounds amazing.
Right? And it was the sweet and the salty and the crunchy
Mm,
and savory, like all the things were happening. And like you take a bite and it was just an absolute mess, like the
yeah,
cranberry, like little vampire reaction, like the
yeah.
cranberries will come out the
Mm,
sides.
oh, I
But I
love that.
love
I love
that
the
sandwich.
vampire imagery.
Right?
I also, you mentioned the sweet and the savory together,
Yeah.
and that reminded me that I do actually have a favorite sandwich of all time, that is way less basic than the French dip, and
Yeah.
that is there was a restaurant called Bennigan's. Do you remember
Yeah.
Bennigan's?
Yeah.
They had a
Oh, I think I know what you're gonna
sandwich
say. I think I know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
called the Monte Cristo.
I love that sandwich, and I knew you were gonna say that. Oh
It
my
took me a
God,
minute to remember.
that is such a great sandwich.
So good.
It's like
Obviously, I
a
love
heart attack
sandwiches
on
that
a
you can
plate.
dip into a sauce. I guess
So
dipping sandwiches is my thing.
But what was it? Was it like ham and cheese?
Yeah, it was
And
ham, turkey, and cheese, and some kind of spread, probably mayonnaise or something. And then it was like
yes.
a breaded, deep fried sandwich.
Yeah, like with French toast. It tasted like French toast on the
Because the
outside.
powdered sugar.
Yes.
They would do the powdered sugar on the outside, and then you would dip it in raspberry jam.
Yes. I knew you
Yeah.
were going to say that when you said
Yeah.
Bennigan's. And I
So
remember
good.
like whenever I ordered it, I felt like that guilt of like,
Hmm.
we should not be ordering this.
Hmm.
Because, it's a deep fried
It
sandwich.
is, yeah, it's
But
basically
oh my
candy
God,
and
it
meat.
was so good.
It was so
And
good.
they served it with French fries, remember?
Yes, yeah. Now, more often than not, the sandwich that I will eat anywhere is an eggplant parmesan sandwich, though.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good choice. You can't go wrong. You
no,
cannot go
so
wrong with
good,
eggplant
so good.
parmesan. Oh, I totally agree. See, do you see how like your favorite sandwich is like such great insight into human beings? Because
Hmm.
like,
Yeah. If
there's so many lovely options.
if the Monte Cristo is your favorite sandwich, like I can imagine you're not afraid to be a little extra
Right.
and like and just indulge yourself really because
Mhm.
that's a really indulgent sandwich.
Oh God, that was so good. That was so good. We also used to get something there. It was a round ball. It was an appetizer, but I think it was full of broccoli. Did you ever get that? It was like a broccoli bite or something?
I think back when Bennigan's was open, I was not very into vegetables.
Oh. I don't know that I would put this in the vegetable category, even though it was, but it was some kind of broccoli thing. Friends in the comments, do you know what I'm talking about? It was like a broccoli bite. It was almost like broccoli cheese soup in a mozzarella stick almost. Like it was,
That sounds amazing. I
yeah,
love broccoli cheese soup and mozzarella
right.
sticks.
I don't know why I do this show at lunchtime, but like I'm clearly very hungry right now because
I,
this
lo-
is making me very excited. All
I
right.
ate a really big bowl of tofu and vegetables right before we started, so I'm like so glad I'm full. Yeah.
Right, right. I know, I know. Okay, I have another question for you then, and that is, so you are an artist. Your life is all about your work life is about art. What does that mean to you that you get to connect to art every day?
Well, it certainly feels like a tremendous privilege.
Right.
Um, it also means that, um, well, this is interesting. For most of my life, I felt like being an artist made me somehow unrelatable.
Mm-hmm.
Like to this day, people are like, this is what a regular day looks like for you. This is wild, you know, like, there are no jobs like my job. The
Mm-hmm.
closest thing that I can think of is like a surgeon as far as like, you know, the amount of time and focus and precision that's required, like
Mm-hmm.
sustained focus and precision. Except that like, a surgeon doesn't have to draw for his surgery, so I'm like an art
Mm-hmm.
surgeon. um, and for a long time it made me feel unrelatable. But recently I've been doing like neurofeedback therapy, and it's helping to rewire my brain. And I have been noticing that I feel much more profoundly connected to people than I have in a really long time. And I think part of that is because I'm an artist. So like I'm no longer allowing that thought process of like the way things look on the surface. I can't
Mhm.
relate to people because my life is so different.
Right.
Um, but underneath the surface, I feel like I can connect more to people because my job is not as mundane.
Mhm.
Um, there are a lot of mundane aspects to this. I have to spend so
Sure.
much time on social media and emails and ordering my inventory and all of that stuff. But like the overarching theme is
Mhm.
is meant to be more like I have to think about what what is always going to mean something to someone.
Right.
And, like a quote, you may not agree with that quote anymore 20 years from now.
Mhm.
However, if you had gotten an image to represent that quote, for example, um, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. The meaning of that image can change for you as you change, as your perspective changes, the meaning of what you're looking at changes.
Definitely.
And so I think for that reason, I actually relate more to people, I
I
think,
love
than the
that
average
you
person.
I love the word privilege as it is related to those of us who are able to be full-time artists. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and even if you're not, right? Even if your artistry, hobby, crafting, making isn't your full-time job, I
Mm-hmm.
do think that it is a privilege to be able to create. I mean, it's kind of like for me, Maslow is covered, right? My Maslowian hierarchy of needs, like safety, security, food, shelter,
Yeah.
covered. So I'm privileged that I don't have to worry about those things.
Yeah.
And so that then, because of all of that, leaves time and space and energy and ability to connect to my life as an artist. And earlier, when you said that in the Matrix, you were handed must create, I think I was standing in line with you because I feel like a day without making something, and even if it's just making a little bit of progress, like a day without making something doesn't feel like a full, complete day to me. And I think I've been that way most of my life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happiest and most content in my maker spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And that does feel like a privilege. It also feels to me like a calling. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am called in a way that I can't really control. It's just
Yeah.
right. It's my
Yeah.
matrix thing. It's my chip.
Yeah. It's like a compulsion.
Yes.
Another part of that privilege too is that a lot of people have had their creativity basically hammered out of them by whether
Right.
that's by, school or parents or just the grind,
Right. Mhm.
and sometimes I even feel it, even as a
Mhm.
professional creative.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I don't have any inspiration until somebody walks through that door and tells me, draw this for me.
Right.
um, and so when I do have that creative spark and I do feel like, a channel for the creative energy of the universe, or I should say the creative impulses of the universe, um, that is a privilege. Just the access to that mode of being
Right.
is a privilege. Even if I weren't making any money and I was just like,
Mhm. Mhm.
creating art with my blood on a piece of scrap paper I find on the street, like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the ability to create is a unique privilege. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. So, is there a sound or a noise that you love?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I'm about to make a reel about this. Especially when I'm getting tattooed.
Yeah.
I like to hear human voices in harmony. It is a very deeply settling sound. When I get tattooed, I'll start off the tattoo with something like kind of chill, but still a wall of human voices harmonizing, like Corsican pentaphonic or polyphonic, Corsican polyphonic choir music.
Oh my gosh. I love how specific that is.
Yeah. And that's like just chill enough to like carry me. It's like like more like for the endurance of like, you got to
Yeah.
keep it
Oh
chill
yeah.
because you got to sustain this energy
Yes,
for
it is a
hours.
marathon. Yes.
And then toward the end, when it's like, okay, just this last little push, I'll put on a band called Gojira.
Yeah.
They're a metal band, but they have, especially their two most recent albums, they have a lot of melody to them and a lot of harmonizing vocals, even though they're like kind of vocals, but they're harmonizing. So
Right.
I just want to be hit with a wall of sound, and I want that wall of sound to include human voices harmonizing.
So it's kind of adjacent to what you're saying is when I go to the dentist, I need a wall of sound. I
Mm-hmm.
usually bring like my noise canceling headphones,
Yeah.
and I am deliberately choosing more like a Metallica Guns N' Roses vibe and less of a
Mm-hmm.
ska
Yes.
chill vibe, because
Yes.
I hate every single sound that comes
Mm-hmm.
out of a dentist's office. And
Yeah.
I love the barrier of, and I hate too, like dentists, I want you all to know, I hate this whole open concept nonsense. I don't want to hear anyone else's machines. Like, I don't
Mm-mm.
want to know what's happening in these like, I want a private room with a wall of sound so I don't
Mm-hmm.
have to hear anything I don't want to.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree. Well, next time you go to the dentist, look up Gojira.
I will. I totally will.
Gojira. They played the opening. They did some performance on the opening of the Olympics this summer in
Oh,
Paris.
yeah.
They're a French band, and it was the most epic thing I've ever seen. They were like in like a castle or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
every single window had a woman dressed up as Marie Antoinette holding her head in her hand. They're all like singing, and they have like this crazy makeup. And then Gojira starts playing, and they're all like standing on platforms outside a window, like just in
I
different
know that
spots
part. I remember
all
that
over. That's
part.
Gojira,
Yeah.
and there's
I did
fire
not know that was Gojira.
everywhere. Yeah,
I'm gonna have
that's
I will
Gojira.
I'm sure I can YouTube and find that again, but
Yeah,
that sounds wildly interesting.
yeah.
Okay, I have one more question for you.
Mhm.
And since we are the Happy Time Craftcast, my last question is, what brings you the most happiness?
Oh man,
And
that's
that
a
could
good.
be today, right? It doesn't have to be like you're forever and ever, because I know that for me, it changes.
Yeah, sure. It changes all the time. But the first thing that comes to mind is being in nature with my children.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if I can't be out in nature, if the weather's really nasty, then I can simplify it to just being with my children. We don't have to be doing anything or saying
Hmm.
anything, but just having them close to me
Yeah.
brings me the most happiness.
I'm gonna say I agree with you, and just add, since my kids are older, being with my children and nobody has a handheld device. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can just be, closer to them physically, mentally, and emotionally, without the distraction or entertainment of something else. That is probably the happiest I ever am. And then adjacent to that, this past weekend, I was crocheting with my daughter. I could have died of happiness right there.
Oh, sounds so
Like just the
lovely.
fact that she was like, "Show me more, mom, and how do I do this?" And that, she picked it up so fast. I was like, "Oh my God, she's a natural." So
Oh, I
absolutely,
love that.
I love that kind of like creative, lovely time with family
Mhm.
is my
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. When my kids are like, they're upset or something, like, especially like my oldest,
Mhm.
like, she recently, was having some kind of conundrum, and and she was like, "Mom, where it's like bedtime. She was in bed. I was in bed reading, like getting ready to go to sleep. She was like, "Mom," and I was like, "What's the matter?" And she's like, I can't sleep. I keep thinking about this thing. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. And I talked to her for a little bit, and then I'm like, do you want to come lay in my bed with me and I'll just snuggle until you feel sleepy? And she was like, yeah. And then we're snuggling, and then I'm like, do you want me to sing to you like I did when you were a baby? And she's like, yes, please. And that, I could have died in that moment. I was just so
I
happy.
bet.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you in that story. Like, that is just so precious and so
Yeah.
lovely.
I'm like, oh, you're not too old for me to snuggle.
Right. Right. I've told this story a lot, and forgive me for those of you who have heard it a million times, but like when my youngest son was a senior in high school, he was at a wrestling tournament, and I was sitting up in the stands, and he came out into the mat, and he found me up in the stands, and he blew me a kiss. And it's embedded in my DNA, like that moment of being claimed. Like I just loved it so much. And that, he's 18 and in front of all of his peers, and there wasn't like a girlfriend around. Like, it was for me. It was my kiss. And I think about it all the time. And every one of my kids has done something like that. But I know what you mean about the savoriness of those moments. Like,
Yeah.
they're just so precious. And I definitely cling to them. And I talk about that example all the time. So hopefully Charlie will give me another one of these examples.
Yeah.
Well, Frankie, oh my gosh, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for
Thank you,
spending time
Joleen.
with me today. This was, and we've been in each other's world for 5 years, maybe 6, I can't
Yeah.
even remember. But to have this time with you today has been so wonderful. I will be sure to link in the show notes where folks can find you, how they can take you up on your generous offer. I will make sure all of that gets connected. I also will make sure, if you are interested in seeing Frankie's artwork at Big Raven Yoga, I will link you to her designs. They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank
And it
you.
will be a decision. It would be a great decision because it's not something you can find on any yoga mat, but only at Big Raven Yoga. So thank you so much for being here. And for those of you listening and joining us in the live stream, thank you so much. I hope you'll join me next week. My guest is Kim DeShazo, otherwise known as Happy Kim Art. She's a mixed media artist and a TikTok creator and friend, and she will be with me next week at noon Central on the Happy Time Craftcast. Frankie, thank you so much, and everyone,
Thank you,
thank you.
Joleen.
All right, we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.